We are not leading our country into war.
We have absolutely no intention of leading our country into war.
We don't allow domestic criminals to operate here either. These domestic criminals are, in fact, no different from international criminals. We will not permit them to continue either.
It must be elevated by its own methods. This work must be properly pursued and followed through. And by divine grace, the Iranian nation has already broken the back of sedition. It must also break the back of the instigator of sedition.
The distinguishing characteristic of this sedition was that the President of America, he himself, personally, he got involved in this sedition. He spoke up, he expressed his views, he even made threats. He gave encouragement to the instigators.
We consider him a criminal, both for the casualties and for the damages and for the slander he brought upon the Iranian nation.
My lord, no God but Allah. Firstly, what is the nature of this sedition, the American sedition?
Planning things out, taking action.
The goal of the Americans, let me quickly interject here, based on my extensive experience and several years spent within the Islamic Republic, I must state this clearly. America's ultimate goal is to completely devour Iran. There is no God but Allah. There is no God but Allah. There is no God but Allah. From the very beginning of the revolution until this very day, the oppressive dominance that they had maintained over our country, by the hands of the people, by the hands of the youth, by the hands of all segments of the people throughout the entire nation, under the leadership of the great Imam, this dominance was completely eradicated.
From the very beginning, they've been planning to bring this back. They have once again placed Iran under their military, political, and economic domination. This objective isn't about the current U.S. president, mind you. It's not about the person who is president right now. This is about American policy.
This is America's policy. A country possessing these particular characteristics situated in such a critical geographical location, with all these facilities available, with such a vast expanse, and with this huge population.
They are simply unable to tolerate such a country with this kind of progress.
The progress that is being made scientifically and technologically in various sectors.
This is not tolerable for an American.
We consider the President of the United States to be a criminal, both for the casualties and for the damages.
Also because of the insult he dealt to the Iranian nation.
We strongly advise you to retreat immediately. Do not advance a single step beyond this point.
If we really get going, we won't have any discussion about ceasefires and such.
We are telling you quite frankly right now, these blows you have struck, these extensive damages you have caused over the past 50 years, all the decency and considerable patience we have shown, you are simply not paying any attention to it. If we were to once again find ourselves in that era of the holy defense, specifically the war from its second year onward, then you can be absolutely certain that very serious problems will emerge for you. You must stop right here, turn back. The Iranian nation is a highly discerning and noble people, not seeking war. But if it reaches a point where it becomes necessary to finish the task and other events unfold, we will still preserve our brotherhood and friendship with Saudi Arabia, with the Emirates, with Bahrain, with Qatar, with Turkey, and with Iraq. But no base of yours in these countries will ever be safe. They don't seem to realize that Iran is just like Russia's snow. The further Trump pushes forward, the worse his situation becomes. If he had only stepped aside after that 12-day war, he would have truly understood the real depth of this whole incident.
The United States moves air crews to the Middle East. Clock ticks down on Trump's imminent strike on Iran. USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier on its way? The Middle East is set for a shakeup. Miscalculation to trigger World War III. The United States is flexing its military muscle in the Middle East as tensions with Iran boil over. At least one aircraft carrier strike group has been dispatched, with Fox News citing military sources who say the USS Abraham Lincoln and other warships that recently sailed from Norfolk and San Diego are now believed to be en route. The move signals a sharp escalation, coming as anti-Khamenei protests rage across Iran, and Washington sends a clear message that it is watching, ready, and prepared to act. The deployment is estimated to take at least a week, but the message is loud and clear. Fox News reported that one of the sources said that if Trump authorizes a strike, it would be different, more aggressive than previous operations, with US forces preparing for multiple Iranian retaliation scenarios. More American air power is also on the move. At least 6 USAF KC-135 Stratotanker aerial refuelers headed south towards Saudi Arabia, according to open-source flight tracking data. Reports also suggested that some US personnel are evacuating Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, America's main military base in the Middle East, as Trump is weighing military action against Iran. If Trump orders military action, Al Udeid would likely be a prime Iranian target, just as it was last year when Tehran launched missile salvos in retaliation for US strikes on Iranian nuclear sites. Iran has repeatedly warned that any American intervention will trigger attacks on US bases across the region, raising fears that a single miscalculation could ignite a wider regional war or worse. So how close is the United States to striking Iran? White House Press Secretary Karine Leavitt gave this answer.
Two quick questions on Iran. I wanted to ask first, just if you can say, how close was the president to potentially launching strikes last night, and was it the Gulf states that convinced him not to do that, as some of the region there have said?
Well, look, Kelly, I know there's been a lot of speculation in the media about what the president is going to do at any given moment or any given night. And I would say a lot of these stories, to be honest with you, I've been reading them, and they've been based on anonymous sources who are pretending or guessing to know the president's thinking. The truth is, only President Trump knows what he's going to do, and a very, very small team of advisors are read into his thinking on that. And as I just told you, he continues to closely monitor the situation on the ground in Iran. And as we saw yesterday, he had heard that the killings and executions would stop, and we have seen 800 people, their lives have been spared as a result of that. The president continues to closely monitor, but also keep all of his options on the table.
Donald Trump himself appeared to step back from the brink, telling reporters he had been informed by very important sources that executions would not take place, though he admitted uncertainty and said the situation was still unfolding. The president stopped short of ruling out military action, saying the U.S. would watch and see how events develop.
Ron, you said that the killing has stopped. Who told you that the killings have stopped there?
We have been informed by very important sources on the other side, and they've said the killing has stopped and the executions won't take place. There was supposed to be a lot of executions today, and that the executions won't take place. And we're going to find out. I mean, I'll find out after this. You'll find out. But we've been told on good authority, and I hope it's true. Who knows, right? Who knows?
We've
Crazy
seen the body
world.
bags, so how do you trust them?
No, you've seen that over the last few days, and they said people were shooting at them with guns, and they were shooting back, and you know, it's one of those things. But they told me that there'll be no executions, and so I hope that's true.
Does this mean military action is now off the table against Iran?
Well, we're going to watch it and see what the process is, but we were given a very good statement by people that are aware of what's going on.
Are they still considering military action?
When they say no executions, everyone is talking about a lot of executions were taking place today. We were just told no executions. I hope that's true. That's a big thing. Yeah.
Meanwhile, behind the scenes, America's closest Middle Eastern allies are sounding alarms. Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Oman are reportedly pressing Washington to pull back, warning that a US strike could plunge the region into chaos.
Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Oman have stepped in behind the scenes to pull the United States back from the brink of military action against Iran. According to a senior Saudi official speaking to AFP, the three Gulf states launched what was described as a long, frantic, last-minute diplomatic effort to convince U.S. President Donald Trump to give Iran a chance to show good intentions, warning that any strike could trigger grave and uncontrollable blowback across the region. The official said it was a sleepless night of diplomacy, aimed at diffusing what could have become yet another explosive conflict in the Middle East. Dialogue, the official stressed, is still ongoing to consolidate the fragile trust that has now emerged. At the height of tensions, some U.S. personnel were moved out of the Al Udeid air base in Qatar, one of America's most important military hubs in the region. U.S. missions in Saudi Arabia and Kuwait issued security warnings as fears mounted that Washington was preparing to strike Iran over its violent crackdown on protesters. The United States had repeatedly warned it could intervene militarily if Iran carried out executions of demonstrators. Tehran, in turn, threatened retaliation, warning it would strike U.S. military and shipping targets across the Gulf, where American bases and assets are heavily concentrated. But after days of escalating threats, President Trump shifted course. Trump said he had received assurances from what he called very important sources on the other side that Iran would halt executions. He later announced that at least one Iranian protester would no longer face the death penalty, citing reports aired by Fox News.
No, I haven't heard about that, and there is no any hanging today or tomorrow or whatever. That's Friday. I can tell you, but I'm confident about that. There is no plan for hanging at all.
On his Truth Social platform, Trump wrote that the Iranian protester had been spared after his warnings, adding that others could also benefit, and calling it good news that he hoped would continue. U.S. military tensions also appeared to ease. Reuters reported that the security alert level at the Al Udeid base in Qatar has now been lowered. Aircraft that were moved out during the alert are gradually returning, and personnel who were advised to leave have been allowed back on base. Still, the situation remains volatile. Iran has vowed to defend itself against any foreign threat after Trump said he would watch it and see before deciding whether military action is off the table. Iran's judiciary confirmed that a protester feared to be facing imminent execution would not receive the death sentence. The protests themselves represent the most serious challenge to Iran's leadership since the Islamic Republic was founded in 1979. What began as demonstrations over economic grievances quickly evolved into a nationwide uprising. Rights groups say at least 3,428 people have been killed in the government crackdown. They accuse Iranian authorities of imposing a sweeping internet blackout to hide the scale of the violence. Monitoring group NetBlocks says the blackout has lasted more than 156 hours. Iranian officials argue the protests were infiltrated by outside elements seeking to provoke President Trump into launching a new war. Iran's justice minister said that after January 7th, the demonstrations were no longer protests, but criminal acts. Despite claims of calm, verified videos show bodies lined up in a morgue south of Tehran, wrapped in black bags, as grieving families searched for missing relatives. Meanwhile, U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham has pushed back against reports that Trump has ruled out military action entirely. Graham said headlines claiming Trump had gotten cold feet were inaccurate, insisting that decisive action against the Iranian regime remains on the table. As diplomacy races against time, the message from the Gulf is clear. An attack on Iran would not stay contained. For now, Pressure, warnings, and fragile assurances have pulled the region back from the edge, but the standoff remains far from over.